What is going on? Alright, first off I want to say sorry this video is kind of longer than some of my other videos. There's kind of a lot going on in this one with the brakes and air setup. So it starts off with me getting into throwing the suspension stuff back on, and then I get into starting to do the brake setup. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. Again, sorry it's so long. I didn't mean for it to be so long, but I kind of started filming a bunch of stuff, and took me probably about a week to edit this video, just because I was going through cutting out stuff that was repetitive or I didn't need, or I didn't want to like drag on and on for you as a viewer to watch. Hopefully I didn't cut out too much, that you still get an idea of where I'm going with things. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up and I will explain as best I can. If not, so be it. But anywho, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Alright, so I threw the front suspension bits back on for now. They're on so I can, I guess, work on to other things. Basically, they're on. I don't plan on taking them off again unless I have to. So now that they're on, I'm going through, starting to do some of the brake stuff, and well, also get ready to do the airline stuff. But right now, I'm going to attempt to put on the brake setup. I started doing some of it. I had to go through and clean the threads off of that. So yeah, I'm gonna work on putting this on. I had the column on, but I ended up taking it off with this spring because for some reason it wasn't connecting well for this plus that. So this should make it easier. I can put this whole thing on, and then I'll put the column on. Alright, so I have the brake setup in. You can see I have the column in. I kind of have a plan what I'm going to do as far as running the lines and whatnot. There's only two ports. There's only two ports on the back side of this. Comes with these adapters that I have, two of them, because they're larger ports, and then I have it going down to these smaller ones. So that's the actual the brake line. I have quite a bit of fittings and brake setup. I have some brake line to get me started, the copper nickel stuff. So there's these two fittings that I have. One of them's going to come down the A one and then split and then go over to about in here. I'm going to drill a hole and the line's going to go through. Same thing on that side. It's going to go down, drill a hole. And then I'm also going to drill a hole for the bulkhead fittings for the air that I have. And then for the rear, one line going to come down and then run straight back and then kind of up and over and probably tap here to miss the gas tank and then run straight back to the rear brakes. Back in the garage working on this, some of these brake lines. So far I have done one. I did the little one here with the T. I kind of wanted to mess around and try it out before I actually like filmed anything, but I picked up this Maddox from Harbor Freight kit, which is actually a pretty decent kit compared to the other ones I've seen from Harbor Freight. But I've done two flares with it so far. I did a inverted taper, which is on this side, and a bubble flare, which is on this side. I'll get it tore apart and show you. Alright, so this would be the inverted flare side. It actually looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I was worried about it looking like crap, but this will go into the adapter that goes into the master itself. And then this side, which I have the T for the front, is the bubble flare. So this is a metric bubble flare. And here's the bubble flare side, which is actually, I'm pretty impressed on it. I was worried it was gonna like look like crap, but it's actually not bad. Alright, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. The A port is for the front. The T will be up here, so then it will split and go to the front. the front lines. So then this, I'm gonna put like a, basically a hold down screw right here to hold this up against the floor. And then I'll have a line going out and then a line going out the other side. But I need to drill holes in here and then one on the other side to where the line's going to go through. And then I have this line, which is the longer one that I just made for the, which will be for the rear lines here. So then as you can see, they're both there. That'll be where the T is. And like I said, it'll split, come over to each side. And then this one will come down. And then the union will be right there. And then from there, it'll turn a corner and then I'll probably drill some holes. Drill a hole somewhere around there. I plan on having all the air lines come in this side probably and run up. And then I have bulkhead fittings, 2 bulkhead fittings that are these. I'll have 90 push to connect off of these, which will be up in here. And then on the other side, the leader line will screw right into this for the airbags. So I'll have one of these on each side. So I kind of need to drill some holes. I need to map them out where I want to drill them, and yeah. Alright, so I have both sides drilled out for both the brake line and the bulkhead fitting. So I'll show you. There's the bulkhead fitting and then the brake line. I did it big just so you could put a nut through it, and then I have a grommet to go on there. Because if not, then you're putting the line through and then you'd have to put an end on it. This way I figured I could do a whole line at once if I wanted to, or what have you. But this side's done. I took the leader line off because the leader lines that were on, that came with the airbags, were, I think they're super long, like 24 inch. And I got some 18-inch ones, which are a little bit longer, which I think will work a little bit better. I guess I'll show that when I go to routing it up through where I have the fitting. I'm going to put a 90 on this, and then this will tee into it there with a 90, and then the other end will just screw into the bottom of the bag. The longer ones had way too much loop in here, which would have been fine if I wasn't doing it this way, but this is the way I'm doing it. I had a wheel out here just to make sure clearance-wise, everything, I wasn't going to have an issue. That's why the wheel's out here. But so far I have air lines set in there and the brake lines are kind of mocked up. I still have to go through and fasten everything down, tighten everything up. I still have to actually bleed this. I'll probably bleed it here and then bleed the fronts, but I'll probably do it all at once. So everything's gonna, I'll probably stay loose until I go to bleed the system. But I'm just going through and like mocking everything up for right now. And yeah, I need to get some 90-degree fittings for the leader lines, and then I need to get some 90-degree push to connect for the other side. The ones I have are all too big. The other leader lines I'm going to use on the back setup. Right now I have a 90 and I just have a push to connect fitting in it. I've already pulled those off twice, and so I want to do something a little bit better, so I'm going to put a elbow here with a port with a NPT, and then I'm going to put the leader line on it and have the leader line go out, and then a push to connect on the end of that. So that way it's more solid up here. I will trust it a little bit more versus just an elbow with a push to connect that I'll be worried about it breaking loose. So alright, so the rear brake lines, these came with the 4-link from Nick, the Scenic guy. One side is the male that goes into the brake drum, and then one side is the female, which goes in which connects to the hard brake line. I'm gonna throw these on, and I'll kind of give you an idea underneath the truck where these go, and also what I'm going to do as far as lines. Alright, so I have both the lines tightened. Driver side, passenger side. Now this bracket, this is where the brake lines meet up. Okay, so one side, it's got an enlarged hole in it, which is fine, which this goes in like so, goes all the way through. This one's smaller, so I'm gonna open up this hole, so then basically both will go through like this. This side will go through here, the other side will come in and go through here. So I'm gonna drill this open, and then once that's in there, you have like so. You have the brake line, then you have this spring, and then you'll have the hard line going into it. I just put a fitting in there just so you get an idea what it looks like. So that's why I have to open up the other side, so then the spring will be on this side, and then the line will go into it. So I'm gonna open that up. And for reference, this is what it looks like when it's in both the springs. Since I drilled this one out, I'm gonna go and put some rust encapsulator on it so it doesn't rust. And then I can run the brake lines to the rear now. So that's done. Happy with that. Alright, so I've been busy on the truck since the last little section, and I'll show you what I've been working on. As you can see, I have most of the lines ran from the master. There's the line that goes to the back brakes. I have a tie in there, and then it goes out there. The fronts come down and it splits. It goes to the right and the left, and there's where the right is. There's a rubber grommet in there. I'm gonna put sealer and everything on it after. Here is the front airbag fitting. Not sure if I will keep this this swivel here or not, but bulkhead fitting, and then that 90 elbow. The other side is the same way. Gas pedal's kind of in the way. Clutch pedal, behind the clutch pedal there. And then the air fitting. And then you can see the air line. And then you can see the brake line coming in. I'm not sure if I'm going to put another tie hold down here or not. Depends on how sturdy this is once I get the stainless steel lines. The driver's side is the same way. Air line, leader line ties into the bag. And then the brake line, hold down, and then once I get stainless steel lines, I'll put the brakes on. Then the underside of the truck, you can see the rear line comes up. I'm using the factory hold down there on one of them. And then I put a hold down there. And then I have my T, and then a short line here, and then a longer line going to the other one. Hopefully that makes sense. And then from here, the lines are ran to the brakes. Same on this side. So all the lines are tied together. Nothing is really tightened down, set in stone yet. That's probably what I'll be working on once I get the stainless steel lines in, finish up the fronts, and then I can work on, I guess, bleeding the system. I'll probably go through, try to bleed the master first. So I'll have to undo the lines at the back, bleed the master, and then I'll go through and bleed the whole system. That might be a little challenging, getting fluid and whatnot in there, but it shouldn't be that bad. But the brakes are almost done. On to the next one. So I've tightened everything as far as brake lines, the rears, the fitting here in the back, and then these two I've tightened. So this one I'm probably going to wait to tighten up because the line that goes up to the back of the master, I want to bleed the master cylinder here. And then same with this one, I didn't tighten the rear one. I can loosen this and then move it out of the way so I can essentially bleed the master, and then once I do that, then I'll bleed the rest of the lines. So brake lines are all tight except for these. Alright, so I ended up putting on the front brakes and the stainless steel lines. I ended up getting the stainless steel lines from Tech 53. They had a kit that had both the front stainless lines. So I put both the stainless lines on. I ended up finishing as you can see, the brake line. I started doing this one and I ended up bending this too tight and kinking it, so I ended up redoing both the front lines because I wasn't happy with how I kinked it. I bent it a little too much by hand and kinked it, so I wasn't happy with it. So I redid both the fronts, and I ended up getting some cheap pliers for bending tight radiuses. So the brakes are on. Now I can get into bleeding the master cylinder and then trying to bleed the system. So I'm going to start with the master cylinder. I'll try to do that in the truck. I don't really want to take it out, so I'll probably put a bunch of stuff down, a bunch of rags, whatnot, under it, and try to do that. And then I'll attach the lines and then try to gravity feed it. If not, I'll have to get somebody to pump the brakes for me while I crack the lines open. So I'm going to get into that. Alright, so I'm getting ready to bleed the master cylinder. I thought about taking it out of the truck, but I really don't want to take it out of the truck and then have to put it back in, since I already put it in there. So I'm going to do it in the truck. I bought this like universal master cylinder bleeding kit. I got this off Amazon. I think you can get these at the local auto parts store. And then I also got giant syringes, so then I can basically fill the master cylinder with fluid, because there's not really a good way to fill it. I'll show you that when I get in there. The one I got has 2 syringes, and then it also has like a piece of hose. So yeah, but that's what I got to help me bleed the master. And then once I bleed the master, I'll hook the lines up and then I'll bleed the brakes. Hopefully I won't have any leaks anywhere. I thought about trying the gravity method, and I also have a vacuum. So we'll see. Worst case, I'll get some help and have somebody pump the brakes for me while I bleed them. But we'll see where and how I end up. I'm just hoping to bleed the master and then be able to bleed the rest of the system, and just hoping for no leaks. So let's get going on that. Alright, so the fittings I have are 1/2 inch that I'll be screwing into the back of the master. I've already took out the adapters. I've taken them out already. So then I'll be attaching these. Alright, so now I have my ginormous syringe here. I think I might essentially make like a giant funnel out of this with my hose. So I have a piece of hose. So this should be able to fill like so. Alright, so I have both sides. Brake fluid is pretty close to the top, almost overflowing. So I'm going to start pumping the master here and try to get some bubbles going.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I've been pumping on this thing for like, I don't know, half hour maybe. And I don't think I have any more air in the lines. So I think what I'm going to do is leave it there and then connect the hard lines to the master. Alright, so I'm going to pull this one out, cap it. Pull this one out, cap this one, So those are capped. Now I'm going to remove these and then put the hard lines on. So, and try not to make a huge mess. Alright, so the back one is hooked up. Now I need to hook up the front one. Alright, so I'm going to clean things up here real quick, and then I'll come back. Alright, so I have the master all bled, lines are attached, I'm not leaking anywhere at the moment. It's topped off, and so now I can go to the rear, because this one's the longest one. I'm gonna do this side first. Sorry, the angle's all funny. This side first, and then I will do that side. So. Alright, so I have the brakes all bled. First things first though, when I went to do the brakes, I basically made like a schematic or layout of how I was going to do everything. I think that kind of helped me get an idea of what I was going to do, split it, the flares and all that, just to try to make sure I had enough tubing, brake line, whatnot. But yeah, this helped me. You don't have to do anything like this, but that's what I did for my setup. I ended up, let's see, trying to bleed the brake lines yesterday. I ended up bleeding the master cylinder just fine. Everything pumped just fine. And then I went to do all the lines, and I can't use my pressure bleeder because I can't get the cap on the top. There's not enough room to put it on there. So then I used a Mighty Vac little hand vacuum, which I was using in the video, and it seemed to work, but at the same time it just felt like I was sucking in a lot of air around the nipple where it connected to the bleeder screw. It just seemed like it was just sucking air, and that's all it was doing. So I ended up going around the whole truck like 2 or 3 times trying to do that. And then I checked the pedal. The pedal is super firm, so I know that the brakes were bled, but I wasn't sure about if they were bled right. So I ended up going to the store and getting some basically 3/16 fuel line, like a little section, and then I made a little one-person brake bleeder setup, which I'll show you. I basically made this up. I took that 3/16 fuel line, ran it to the bottom, drilled a hole in the cap with a little vent hole, put a zip tie on it to keep it in here, and then put this on the nipple. This fits tight, so I know there's no leak. I know there's no air coming in. So basically put this on, started with the driver's rear, because that one seems like it at the furthest. Driver's rear, passenger rear, and then I just did the passenger front, driver front. And then basically you fill this with brake fluid till it covers the tube here. Hook this up, and then you crack the bleeder and then go in and pump the brakes. Basically the same thing as when I was bench bleeding the master cylinder. Then that came out fine, fluid, no air. I did that basically all four, and it was all perfect. Went through just a bottle of brake fluid, and it didn't seem like there was any air in it. So, and then the pedal's firm, so I'm calling them good. I was gonna go through and try the 2-person bleed method, but I think it's kind of overkill at this point. I may later, but I plan on, once I get everything running, test drive it without the dash and stuff. That way that I don't have to worry about pulling the dash just to put fluid in it or make sure I don't have any leaks. So, but right now there's no leaks in the system. The pedal's nice and firm, and yeah, I'm super happy with it right now. So as you can see, nothing's too crazy with the brake setup. Brake lines, stainless brake lines. I ended up wrapping them with this cable wrap, just so I don't have to worry about the steel braided lines rubbing on stuff. Same with the airline. I did the same thing, wrapped it with the plastic wrap. Driver's side, same thing, wrapped it. I have this one loose. I had it in the tower, but I took it out because I had to fix some paint areas that I messed up. So I'll need to mount this back up. I'm kind of thinking of what I want to do, if I want to do like different bolts on these so they don't stick up so high. As you can see, they're sticking up a good inch. So I'll probably maybe do something different with that. I'll have both of them. So I'll either get different bolts for both or what. I'm not sure yet. But I just don't know if I like that sticking out an inch. But anywho, thanks everybody for following along, and I'm keeping at it slowly but surely, trying to keep my motivation going. I had to fix a couple areas of paint in the bay, which were nothing more than I sanded what I thought was a clear coat run. I started to sand it. It ended up being a sealer run. So, and they were only 2 small areas, but I ended up one of the towers, and then this one of the frame horns. There was a spot down here. I probably could have touched it up and not even worried about doing it, but I ended up sanding the run out, both spots, and then I masked it off and then sanded, just scuffed the clear coat up enough, and then I blended the color, did that, and then re-clear coated those 2 areas. Put on 2 good coats, so it should be good for. I don't plan on cutting and buffing the bay too much. Just the minor areas where I had runs, I'll fix that, and then buff the rest of the bay, and then call it good. I'm not too concerned with it, but I mean, it looks pretty good for what it is. So I'm not trying to make it perfect. I mean, I'm kind of being anal with a lot of stuff just because I want to try to make it as as good as I can, as perfect as I can. Probably going a little bit overboard on some things, but I just want it to be as best as I can for doing it in a garage and learning it all as I go. So yeah, I appreciate everybody following along, seeing where I'm at on the build, and just hoping it helps somebody down the road, because I know that's the main reason why I'm doing it, is try to help people, and just to give me something to do working on the truck. So it's kind of a virtual build per se, as forums aren't really as they used to be. So trying to document everything and keep it going. But anywho, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Master cylinder bleeder kit. Help.